All right, so we've gone through all these different organisms, and now we're getting into much more of what you're probably interested in, which is mammals, things like that. So last but not least, we're going to cover the Deuterostomes. So all of those vertebrates and sea stars, econodons. Deuterostomes are going to be two clades that share one trait, and that trait is that their anus is formed before their mouth. All the other animals out there, mouth forms first. You get a mouth, then you get an anus. Us and starfish, our anus forms first, followed by our mouth. It's in two broad groups, the econoderms and the chordates. Econoderms have radial symmetry with an internal hard skeleton, but they do not have a true head. So starfish, sea cucumbers, they have an internal hard skeleton, no true head. And that hard skeleton doesn't need to be made of bone. It can be made of something else, but it's hard. Econoderms use the power of water, hydraulics, in order to move their feet. They have, not just move their feet, in order to create pressure. They can actually create vacuums using their suction. They push water in and out of their bodies. That lets them hold on tight to things. If you ever tried to get a starfish off of a substrate that it didn't want to get off of, it'd be almost impossible. They use that suction in order to rip open bivalves. So here we can see a starfish getting ready to rip open a bivalve. It will then invert its stomach, so literally basically give it a puking up its own stomach, putting its stomach into that bivalve, slurping it all up, and then pulling it back out of the shell. The sea stars, the Astroidea, are the starfish. Fun fact, you can grow an entire starfish off of one arm. If you were to cut off an arm, as long as each of these segments has all the internal organisms the organism needs, then it will grow back entirely. And that led to a big problem, because fishermen who were collecting bivalves, who were collecting clams and things, would sometimes get starfish and like, oh, we want this dead, so they'd cut it in half and throw it back in the water. Well, they've just doubled their problem. So over time, these organisms can regenerate. So you have to damage all of the internal organs in all of the segments. Basically, you'd have to cut through here, here, here. Just mince it up. Just keep mincing. Or you eat them, or you cook them. Well, we can't, but other organisms can. The brittle stars are like sea stars, but they're much, much smaller. Think of that, they're like usually about an inch. But they've got this central disc with very, very thin arms coming off. The way they move is really cool. And you'll see this in a few different other organisms. They curl themselves into a ball and roll. Sea urchins and sand dollars. If you've never seen one, this is what a sand dollar looks like. Sand dollars are very fuzzy and purple. And basically, they stick partway out of the sand because they use their cilia to trap nutrients and then bring it down into their mouth in the center. Sure.
So when it's purple and like fuzzy, it's alive?
Yep. Oh. Purple and fuzzy, it's alive. White, it's dead. You basically got the skeleton.
Because I found that when I was wondering what was wrong with it.
No, what was wrong with it was still alive. The crinoids, otherwise known as feather stars. So these guys have about 200 arms. They look sort of like plants. They're actually animals. They can walk, they can crawl, they can roll, and they can swim by pushing their arms. Usually they're attached to sponges and corals because that's where the food is. And the holothuridians, otherwise known as the sea cucumbers. There's a lot about the sea cucumber I want to share with you. So much. The short answer is sea cucumbers are holothuridians that can, when they're in danger, release internal organs into the environment in order to feed whatever predator's trying to get them so they can escape. They let out this really sticky, basically they've got these sticky growths in their intestines that they release out and they regrow them. And that stickiness grabs onto the, attaches to the predator and they don't like it. So they want to leave. In some sea cucumbers, they have a fish that lives in its anus. Like, literally the fish will swim into the anus of the sea cucumber and live there with a mate among the sea cucumber's various organs. And then come out when it needs to forage for food. But it provides, because the sea cucumber is often poisonous, provides safety. In order to stop these fish from doing that, some sea cucumbers, this is that whole Red Queen theory, have evolved what are called anal teeth. Literally, when they clench their anus shut, there are teeth that will stop these organisms from getting in. So, if you don't want a fish living in your anus, anal teeth was the answer. That apparently is the end of that lecture. That's a good way of ending it right there. Questions? Concerns?